Hello once again, everybody. Let's continue where we left off. We spoke yesterday about giving clothing into the cleaners on Erev Shabbos. So let's continue talking about cleaners. But let's talk about now what happens if the cleaners delivers the clothing to you on Shabbos. Now this always happens to people on Fridays in the middle of the winter. In November, December, Shabbos is really early, and the cleaner says going to deliver it on Friday. And it doesn't end up showing up until Shabbos already began. Sometimes it show up at 6 o'clock, which is like after, Rabbeinu time, well into Shabbos. Can you use those clothing? The answer is yes. Unless you gave it to him at like 3:30 and there was no way for him to do the job and have it finished and delivered to you before Shabbos. But assuming that wasn't the case, you gave it to him on Wednesday or Thursday or even early Friday morning, and he just didn't get around to delivering it to you until Shabbos began, so then you would be allowed to use that clothing. The fact that he brought it to you on Shabbos was his own choice, and in this situation, you don't even get involved with the shiloh of it coming from outside the tchum. Like for instance, if you get an Amazon delivery on Shabbos, so then it starts getting involved with the whole shiloh, which we're not going to discuss now. Of can you use that item? Was it outside of the tchum? If it was outside of the tchum at the beginning of Shabbos, is that a problem? But over here, it was definitely within the tchum before Shabbos, so there's no problem for you to use that clothing. As an aside, can you rip off that, like let's say on the shirt, a lot of cleaners have that cleaner's tag in the buttonhole of the shirt. Would you be allowed to rip off that tag? So that really depends on, like l'chatchila, you should always rip those off beforehand. It's not so simple to do it. If you need that clothing, let's say you have another shirt, so then you shouldn't, where the tag is already off, so then you should wear the other one. But if you don't have another shirt to wear and this tag is showing, like it's not tucked into your pants, and it's showing and it's you're not comfortable wearing it, then in such a situation you would be allowed to tear off that tag. Let's move on to another halacha, which is going back to the halacha of starting malachas that are going to continue on Shabbos. So we spoke about that. Generally speaking, you are allowed to start a malacha, with the exception of cooking, which has certain tanoim, certain guidelines. But you're allowed to start a malacha which will continue on Shabbos. An example of this would be to have your, let's say you have a sprinkler system or a sprinkler on the front yard, and it's going from before Shabbos, or even on a timer that is going to go on Shabbos. So this is a tricky shaila. The answer really is, technically, you are allowed to have a sprinkler go on Shabbos, technically. However, it's strongly not advisable to do so. Many Rabbanim get very upset by it. It is considered by people to be a zilzol, a disgrace of Shabbos, to have your sprinkler go on Shabbos. So therefore, like this, if you have you're fortunate enough to have a property out in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, there's no Yidden around, so you want to know, could you have the sprinkler set to go on Shabbos? Yes. But if you're living in West Rogers Park in a Jewish community, while technically letter of the law, you might be allowed to have your sprinkler continue going on Shabbos, or even turn on Shabbos for a couple of hours Shabbos morning. It's strongly advisable and proper to have your sprinkler system set that it should not go on Shabbos, as it is. It bothers people. It is considered by people in our communities to be a zilzol Shabbos, and therefore, while technically mutter, one should try to avoid it.